I don't want to live for 100 years and the last 30 years be sick all the time. 75% of the gummies on the market, they're just candy. There's nothing good in there. Doctors receive 0 hours in 4 years of medical school of training on wellness and nutritional health and nutritional supplements.
This is the Future of the Future show. I am your host, Mateo Berbejicio. Today's conversation goes beyond just how long we live and dives into how well we live. We are exploring the powerful idea of health span versus lifespan, not just adding years to life, but adding life to those years. While lifespan measures total years lived, healthspan focuses on the years we remain healthy, active, and free from chronic disease. To unpack this, I am joined by John Linss, founder of CoreSpeed Health, who is working at the intersection of science, supplements, and real-world outcomes. In this episode, we will get into how John defines healthspan, why he believes it matters more than simply living longer. We'll explore what sparked his mission, the problem he's solving with CoreSpeed Health, and his take on what's broken today in wellness industry. John, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Mateo. I'm really pleased to be here with you.
John, how do you personally define healthspan, and why do you think it's more important than simply living longer?
Well, I don't want to live for 100 years and the last 30 years be sick all the time. I am an endurance hiker. I've crossed the Grand Canyon in one day from the north to the south rim. I've climbed Mount Whitney in one day, which is the tallest mountain in the 48 states. And I'm a wilderness photographer. And I have to be fit and I have to be capable in order for me to be able to do that. And so I want to be able to do that while I'm, still healthy now. I'm 67 years old. But I also want to do it when I'm in my 80s and 90s with my grandkids. I think that's the key, is to be able to enjoy my life in a healthy way and to be able to do the things I've always done.
I love it. What sparked your interest in healthspan, and why is this mission meaningful to you right now?
Well, I think part of it is my activities, right? I'm outdoors a lot and I'm doing physical things. I also have a wife that's younger than I am. And so I'd kind of like to be around for a lot of years with her because she's an amazing lady. And I have kids that I want to see the grandkids and maybe even great grandkids one day. And to be able to do the things I've always done instead of being that old man over in the corner or struggling through getting from one place to another, or even more importantly, with good mental health.
Yeah.
Because if I don't have good mental health can be, dementia, or it can be just miserable and angry and frustrated. And I don't want to be that kind of grumpy old man. And so I think part of that is mindset, but it's also partly due to how well I'm feeling. If I'm getting good restorative sleep and I wake up feeling well, going through the day with a positive mindset and with energy, all of those things go into a quality of life that I want to have as I grow older.
So tell me a little bit about CoreSpeed Health. What problems are you solving, and how do your supplements fit into that broader vision?
So I think I'll start by telling you why I did it. My wife and I had decided we wanted to have a baby together,
Right.
and she had had acute myeloid leukemia about 10 years prior. It only had about a 23% chance of survival, and she was able to beat it, but it took a lot of chemo to decimate the egg supply for women. So we went to a fertility clinic, and we went through a very involved process to get both our bodies ready, and very expensive, very inconvenient.
Right.
And so the fertility clinic said, why don't you take these supplements? And they gave us a list, probably 21, 22 supplements long. And my wife said, where do we get these? And they said, oh, just go on the internet. You'll be fine. Well, I've been taking supplements a long time. And through that process, I'd done research. And there are published studies on the internet you can find from reputable sources that show that when you test supplements that are acquired online, very often they're completely fake, meaning there's no bioavailable actives at all in those supplements, whether it be capsules or gummies. Gummies are even worse. 75% of the gummies on the market, they're just candy. There's nothing good in there. And so this is an important thing for us. We're spending lots of money. There's nothing more personal than having a baby, right? And we want to make sure that that baby's going to be healthy, that our bodies are ready for that. And so I knew that this wasn't true. And it kind of was a poor patient experience. But I didn't blame the doctor. Doctors received 0 hours in 4 years of medical school of training on wellness and nutritional health and nutritional supplements and fitness. They get nothing. They're taught how to take care of sick people.
Right.
They learn diagnosis and they learn sick treatment, treating the symptoms. And so they're uncomfortable when it comes to supplements, and they don't bring it up proactively most of the time. Now, I've had several that have done that in my life, and one said, well, you can just get it on the internet. Another one gave me a website. Another one sold them to me from his inventory, and within 18 months, he quit doing it because that's just not a doctor's core competency to do inventory management of products. They know sick care. And so what I felt like was that the doctors needed an easy button,
Right.
something that they could trust, something that was science and evidence based. And they didn't have to spend a lot of time doing it. Doctors, there's a big shortage of doctors right now. And so doctors are working 10-hour days, they're skipping their lunch. They come in, they spend 6 to 10 minutes with a patient, and then they're on to the next one.
Right.
They don't have time to add other things into their routine. So they had to be able to do something as part of that workflow that would take no more, I should say, than say 30 seconds to a minute to make a recommendation. And supplement taking on the patient side is also broken.
Right.
It's a hassle. I was taking about 25 capsules a day, and I had gotten my ideas around what to take through anecdotal sources, people telling me what they did, through advertisements, through research on the internet. But I can tell you for sure, I was taking too much of some things and not enough of others. And I was taking them all at once because it was convenient. And so the supplements were fighting each other. That's just not a good way to engineer health. And that's really what I felt like we needed to do. We needed to engineer health systems. And so my background in technology, my background in manufacturing led me to come up with the idea of CoreSpeed.
That is amazing. And tell me a little bit about the supplements. How does it work? Where can people get them?
So first of all, what we do is we created a platform that allows us to generate websites very quickly. It's a multi-tenant platform, meaning that we can have brands within brands. So we'll generate a website for a doctor with his practitioner brand, and we can do that in about 8 minutes
Right.
with a custom catalog of products, with a shopping cart, payment processing. And so when we sit down with a doctor, we walk them through the background of our supplements, which is very important. We formed an R&D team that had a nutritional supplement scientist, registered pharmacists that have been compounding products for 40 years, and physicians. And together we crafted nutritional supplements that are blended so that you get just what you need and nothing you don't for specific health protocols. Those health protocols are backed up by scientific studies, clinical studies that are evidence-based. And so we provide these wrapped in an overall wellness set of ingredients that foster health span, foster energy and well-being, and good sleep, good restorative sleep. And we put those in the catalog. And we give the doctor a branded brochure that has QR codes in it. All that doctor has to do is check a box, hand it to their patient, and say, I want you to take this. And then all the patient has to do is hit a QR code. It takes it straight into the doctor's site. They add it to the cart and check out. And every 30 days, they get a box in the mail with 60 daily packets,
Right.
one for the morning and one for night. When I was taking all those packets in the morning, some should have been capsules. Some should have been taken at night. And so now I take 13 capsules a day. I open my morning packet in the morning and take those, and I open my evening packet in the evening and take those. It's really easy for me to do, and I sleep better, I feel better. Everything around my life has improved.
That is amazing. So let's go back to the wellness industry, right? What do you believe is fundamentally broken or misleading in today's wellness and supplement industry? You were talking a little bit about that, but let's dive deep into that.
So I think probably the biggest problem is that it's not regulated here in the United States.
Right.
Our factory is FDA certified. We do third-party testing. We have certifications around that, but that's voluntary. I don't have to do that. You may have seen on the internet where there's a do-it-yourself little device that helps you fill capsules full of powder. You can
Yeah.
make your own supplements, right? Anybody can do that and sell them on the internet. That doesn't lead me to have a high confidence level in the quality or in the efficacy of those particular capsules, right? So I think that while regulatory oversight is kind of a pain and it's very costly, usually, there's a reason for it.
Right.
It protects the consumer. And I think we need more consumer protection in this industry. The reality is that anybody can decide to get into the supplement business. I started looking at, okay, I'm going to acquire some supplements. I'm going to make these available to these doctors within health protocols. And as I started looking into acquiring these ingredients and these capsules, I realized that I didn't trust any of them.
Right.
And so I said, I got to do this myself, right? And that's the reality. And Amazon knows they have a problem. They're starting to put together a testing regimen that are going to be required for supplements, but they don't have it yet.
Yeah.
And so we have the problem we have with uncertainty around the quality and efficacy of these supplements. So I think regulation is probably the first thing. The second thing is that people don't have an engineered system. They don't have protocols. They have advertising to educate them. They have surfing on the net to educate them. They're not experts in this area.
Right.
But they're trying to put together a set of supplements that will make them feel better, allow them to be healthier, to solve certain problems. But I guarantee you, if you ask 10 people, if you stop taking those supplements, will it change how you feel? Most of them will say no. That's a key indicator that what they're doing probably isn't having the impact and the effect that you want. Now, I got to say that some supplements that are targeting things like mitochondrial health, which is cellular health at the core, don't always have a direct one-to-one correlation to how
Right.
you feel. But if you have an engineered system that combines these ingredients together so that they support one another, then generally you're going to change how you feel. And you're going to change how you feel for the better.
Um, So your approach is different in many ways, right? You were talking about your concerns for regulatory compliance. Even if it's not required from you, you are seeking the right approvals, you are seeking the right process, the right scientific process. You also talked about making things easier for both the doctors and the patients, right? What else do you think, or is that the main differential on how you do things?
Well, we think about it at two levels. One level is in the practitioner network that we
Right.
formed with medical wellness and fitness practitioners. So these folks are having guidance on what to take, but the general public doesn't have that guidance.
Right.
And so we've launched a direct to consumer approach that leverages science and evidence-based algorithms. We use AI for robotic process automation, so it makes this process more efficient. Our machine systems we run on Amazon. That makes it more effective and more efficient. It doesn't take forever to come back with a really good result, and it
Right.
doesn't have hallucinations. So they can come into PharmaBuilt with a PH, pharmabuilt.ai, and fill out an assessment. And at the end of that assessment, then they'll get a recommendation. We believe that if individuals create their own set of supplements that they're going to take, they're not going to be able to get hit the sweet spot, so to speak.
Right.
And I think about the sweet spot in two levels. There are health needs that people have, and you want to address those health needs so that the supplements improve the condition. But you also want to have that good, solid health and wellness that will lead to health span.
Um, so how has your background, right? You have an amazing background. You have a background in experience in technology and strategy. How do you think that background shaped your approach to building a health-focused company? And or let me put it another way. Do you think you would have been able to do all that you are doing today, maybe 20 years back when you didn't have all of the experience that you have today?
Probably not. No. The reality is, I started my career in the industrial machinery business, selling highly automated systems to commercial woodworkers. And I spent about 15 years doing that. And one day, my daughter, who was 6 years old at the time, started standing at the door with her arms spread wide, saying, "Daddy, please don't go."
Right.
And it was like pulling my heart out in front of me and showing it to me. It killed me. And so I spent about a year trying to figure out how do I change careers so I don't have to travel so much. And I picked information technology because our systems had very advanced technology, and it was all about systems and flows. Well,
Right.
so is technology. And so after a year, I ended up moving into a software company, and I took that company in the direction of leading technologies. Back then, they were just starting to move away from what we called client server technology and mainframe technologies into internet technologies,
Right.
Java. And I I connected to one of the very first Java application servers, which enabled those technologies to run effectively and to be realistic in terms of how you build enterprise systems. And that's something I've done a lot of. I've always stayed at the front end of new technologies. In that case, it allowed me to make my transition very quick because I could walk into a shop that had 40 people in it with 20 years of programming experience, but I would be the expert on my technology. And I could help them become more effective in their implementation of technology. And so, what I learned during those times was that, first of all, you need to start building frameworks because crafting technology from scratch is a very daunting task when you have to build all the plumbing and all of that sort of thing. So we started building frameworks. We started building accelerators. And over the course of my career, I've built rapid application development environments that allowed developers to be very efficient and effective, enabling some of our clients to create systems that other companies took 2 years to build. We did it in 3 months.
Right.
Speed is important in business, and ease of use is important in business. And so we began to build systems. One of those systems was one of the very first multi-facility intranets for hospitals. So I've been doing medical type work, medical industry type work for probably 30 years now. And we were the first that allowed doctors and nurses to publish on the intranet without knowing any HTML or have any special skills. And that taught me a lot. It taught me that if you give people the right tools, then they're going to be effective in more effective in their jobs, and they're going to be more able to solve the problems of that business. And so over the course of the last 25 years, I've built many systems. I've built many products, both on my own behalf and for other companies in multiple industries. And what I found is I can work in one industry and take some concepts and some techniques and apply them to other industries that had never even thought about that.
Right.
And so, in essence, I built a foundation that allowed me to see things that I wouldn't have otherwise seen if I didn't have that experience. And to be able to know that there is probably a technology out there that can do what I want it to do. And so it's just finding that, putting it together in an effective way. So you always have to build what I call surroundware. That is the secret sauce, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, if you have to reinvent the wheel every time, it doesn't work. I'm using concepts and techniques today that started 25 years ago in other technologies. And I've simply updated them as we went through things like web services and big data, getting it. I was doing machine learning and AI in 2013.
Right.
And it's not the same as today, but the concepts, the principles are very much the same. I'm fond of saying what is old is new again,
Yeah.
right? We're not doing mainframes, but a lot of the techniques and concepts from mainframe days are still applicable to today.
Yes, sir. Um, let's talk a little bit about operations. What are the biggest challenges in manufacturing, quality control, and the supply chain for health products today?
Well, I would say quality is the number one issue. We have to test everything.
Right.
Um, we test for heavy metals, we test for foreign materials, we test for whether or not it has a purity level, right? You have to do that. And some of these ingredients come from other countries.
Hmm.
And so we have to be very careful in bringing in other, products from other countries. And that's one of the things as I move out into international distribution, we're going to have to look at also. It's a
Hmm.
very expensive proposition to bring together all these materials. Our blood sugar protocol, for example, has 69 individual distinct ingredients that have been scientifically designed to achieve particular purposes, right? And so I started this with the idea that, well, I might need to have other people manufacturing for me because with growth, uh, I just wanted to make sure that I didn't grow too fast, right? And outgrow my manufacturing capacity. And so I talked to half a dozen manufacturers, and five of them said they looked at it, they spent some time, they eventually came back to me and said, "We don't want to do this. We can't do this. Too complicated."
Wow.
And one came back, but his price was five times higher than mine. So that told me that I have to scale. I have to do predictive scaling, which I already knew that, but I have to add in an extra buffer to ensure that I can scale in a so our technology is auto scaling.
Okay.
The more the more users we have, the more it scales. I got to do that with my manufacturing, and that's not so easy because you're talking about a physical product.
Yep.
You're talking about customs, and you're talking about transportation, and you have to have multiple vendors, and sometimes that's hard to do also. So that was probably the very most important thing to get right and to enable us to scale. You know, QA and quality control, that's process. That's process and documentation. If you don't have the right processes in place, if you don't have the right documentation in place, then you don't have quality.
Yep.
I'm sorry, you just don't. You may be able to produce a product, but it's going to have a lot of variability. It's if you can't prove what you've done, then your quality is suspect. And so that's a big part of manufacturing today. Um, and as we go forward, you know, we have to look at our processing. So, for example, on the gummy side, most gummies, their slurry, which is the base product, has to be heated.
Hmm.
And most folks in their processes keep that slurry heated for about 10 to 15 minutes. Well, what happens to those actives? They break down in heat. They don't get better in heat.
Right.
And so our gummies, we don't leave in heat longer than 3 minutes. So that means we got to be really fast. Instead of counting on this convoluted system of pipes and tubes, we have a proprietary process that allows us to reduce the amount of time that our slurry is in heat. And so those kinds of things become very, very important as you scale and as you provide quality products.
Very, very interesting. So there's a word here that keeps coming back to mind, which is distribution, right? You're producing, but if you don't distribute, if you don't get it to the end customer, the consumer, nothing really matters, right? And so you have two parts there. You have doctors, you have the patients and consumers. Sometimes the patient is the consumer. Sometimes there's someone purchasing for for that patient. Um, how how are you thinking and uh, building trust with doctors, patients, and consumer in this crowded and skeptical market?
So sales solves all problems, but it also creates others.
Yeah.
I've seen people destroyed by success
Yep.
more than once. And so I want to avoid that. So we have a process that we take our practitioner network through. First of all, when I sit down with a doctor and I explain, and I've got other people doing this as well, we've got to have scale in our organization. We got to get to the doctor first. So let's start with that. We got to get to the doctor first. I have a tremendous network from my 30 years in working in healthcare. And I have a lot of friends that help that are basically reps in the medical field. We also go to trade shows,
Yep.
and we don't really advertise, but we are starting to do some email marketing. And I'll talk about email marketing in a second because that's really relevant in the direct consumer market. So when we get someone that's interested in learning more about what we're doing, then we walk them through, first of all, the science behind what we do and why we do it the way we do it. And we show them, I give them a book. It's 100 pages long with details around the ingredients and the clinical studies behind why we did what we did. So they have a confidence level that what they're recommending is high quality and that there's a backing for from science for doing that. Then we got to make it easy for them, which I've explained how we do that. They have an easy button, right?
Yep.
And so really there's three sales that we have to make in the
Yeah.
practitioner space. First, the doctor says, yes, I want to do the program. Second thing is that they have to recommend it, right? They can't just give somebody a brochure and say, go home and look at this. They have to open that brochure, check a box, say, this is what I want you to take. And that's a change in behavior.
Yep.
So that's a challenge that we have to solve. And we're solving for that through education and through making it easy. And then the third one is the patient has to be compliant. And our process enables them to be more compliant than they would otherwise. If a doctor says, go take this vitamin D, they may or may not do it. But if they give them a way to do that, then they're more likely to do that.
Yep.
And so the more doctors we have, some of our doctors have 40,000 patients.
Wow.
They have practices that have multiple doctors. And so we help them educate their patient population. So that's another way we have to do that. We also have to educate not just the doctors, but the other patient-facing staff,
Right.
nurse practitioners, the physician assistants, and so forth. Even the front desk staff need to be taught why and how we do things.
Right.
And so when we do all of that, what ends up happening is that patients get on the program because they trust their doctor, right? That is a key component. You know, our culture has abdicated our health care to the doctors and the insurance companies and so forth. It's just in the last 15 or 20 years we've begun to see some healthcare consumerism coming up. But still, people want to be told what to do.
Yep.
They like it to be easy. But they don't want to do something if they are uncertain about it. So that's why all that front end work has to be done. And that takes time to do. So that's, you know, if you think about it, that's our distribution channel in the B2B space, right? And it's very powerful because doctors have I call it the Bubba effect. I'm from the South. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. There are a lot of people in the South called Bubba. And, you know, this guy will say, hey, you know what? If Bubba's doing it, then I'll do it because I know it's okay. And that's the way the doctors are. If Dr. Smith is doing it, then I know that he's done his homework. I feel good about doing it. And so that referral process is a big part of what we encourage within our network. That improves our scaling capabilities, right? And so there's a number of factors that go into that distribution channel for us. The next distribution channel is around direct to consumer. I've built 3 marketing automation platforms over the course of my career, sold them all, and they're in other people's products today. Sugar CRM was the last one to purchase one of the platforms, and it's sold today. And they took it in, made it an enterprise solution, and they make a lot of money. I believe, though, that email marketing is still not dead. A lot of people said, oh, social media is the only way to go. Email marketing's dead. I dispute that. So I built my 4th email marketing platform. It's really not an email marketing platform. It's a marketing automation platform because we incorporate everything from sending emails to behavioral tracking, to segmentation, to integration with social media, because you have to have social media as overall air cover. And so I have access, because of my experience and the people that I know, to over 100 million emails.
Right.
Those emails are double opt-in, but they're aged. So we're using AI to farm current signals out of the internet with opt-in records for people that are actively looking today for blood sugar or for brain health or whatever it happens to be. And so when we send them a three-sentence email that says, we think you might be interested in this, with a link, a lot of them will click on it.
Yeah.
But it's a numbers game, right? You got to be sending a lot of emails, and it takes a long time to warm up your channels.
Yep.
Send emails so that you get good deliverability. That is both a science and an art. And we have scientists and artists on our staff. And so when they click on that link, it takes them into a landing page, what we call a click funnel, and they fill out an assessment form. And through algorithmic based and scientific based structures, we provide them with a recommendation. We use AI underneath that to make that more efficient, but in the end, they get a recommendation that is basically giving them, when they get the recommendation, they also see why that recommendation was made. It's not a blind recommendation. And so that helps them feel good about what they're doing when they go ahead and start a new program. So, the reality is that right now, well, from inception, we were focused 100% on engineered health and on health protocols that combined a lot of ingredients so that you get the best possible result. We also know that most of the marketing out there, most of the people that are buying individual products. So we do some of that as well. And we know, though, that what we're doing has more ingredients in it and is more likely to be scientifically based, clinically founded than any other product on the market.
John, such an amazing story, and we can clearly see all of your background into it, right? Everything that you're doing, how you're building trust, how you're building systems, how you think about operations, how you think about supply chains, how you think about technology. Everything that you've done is coming into place right now. It's amazing. It's an amazing story. Thank you for sharing this story with us. And I hope that we can stay in touch and do another episode in the future.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mateo. I really appreciate your having me on, and I look forward to another session with you. That'd be great.